AI is different. AI is this one. AI is a revolution in computation. It's about how information is processed. And that might sound like semantics, but these are fundamentally different shapes of waves. And maybe the most visceral way to feel this is to think about the fact that the floor keeps moving underfoot. The technology foundation on which everybody builds changes every day when new capabilities come out. And we've had three major inflection points over the last handful of years. First one, ChatGPT moment, November 2022, the world saw the power of pre-training. Second one, a couple years later, O1 model, reasoning. All of a sudden, a second scaling law emerges around inference time compute. Third one, just recently, Claude Code and Opus 4.5, now 4.7. The world saw the power of long horizon agents. And while these look like 3 points on a continuum, it's kind of a hard break between 2 and 3. It's a little bit of a discontinuous change. And if we may be so bold, we would say that this is AGI. And look, I'm an econ major, we're venture capitalists, not about to propose a technical definition for AGI, okay? We study founders and markets and the collision thereof, which is businesses. But we do study businesses. And so from a commercial standpoint, from a practical standpoint, from a functional standpoint, if you can dispatch an agent to do a job and it can recover from failure and persist until that job is done, I don't know, that feels pretty much like AGI. Even if you don't think it's AGI, which is fine. By the way, Sonia will talk a lot more about this in her part. Even if you don't think it's AGI, I think we can all see that the cars have arrived. Last few years, we've had a lot of faster horses. Applications that made you 10 or 40% more productive, but didn't fundamentally change the way you work. Now we're starting to see cars. Applications that make you 10 or 40x more productive and absolutely change the way that you work, change the nature of your work, change the nature of your organization. Cars have arrived. This is the founder of Sequoia, Don Valentine. He was famous for asking one question. So what? Why does all this stuff matter? Well, it matters because just in the last few months, the race has begun. And it's a different kind of race than what we're used to. The way you drive a car is different than the way you ride a horse. The way you build a car is different than the way you take care of a horse. So it's a very different sort of race. And one of the reasons that we wanted to gather everybody here today is because nobody has all the answers. And the more time we can spend together, the more we can learn and hopefully figure out where all this stuff is headed. And it's important that we do so as soon as possible because there's a lot at stake, just from a commercial perspective. There's $10 trillion up for grabs. We got labs coming at it from a tech out approach. We got startups building on top coming at it from more of a customer back approach. We do have all of the labs represented in this room, but most of you are building on top. And so we'll take a minute and talk about that customer back approach. So our advice for those of you who are building on top of the labs, is free advice, and so it's worth every penny you paid for it. Our advice would be to get mad. And we don't actually need you to be angry. You can be angry if you want. If that's what drives you, that's cool. Go ahead and be angry. But this is just a convenient acronym for moats, affordance, and diffusion, which are three characteristics or three pillars of a strategy for building on top of the models. First on moats, just for fun, anybody remember this slide from last year? One person, and he's my partner. Okay, that's cool. We're not gonna, okay, as a reminder, this slide shows the merchandising cycle, which is the links in the value chain required to take something from an idea to a happy customer. We're not actually gonna go through the links in the chain. The point that I wanna make here, if you approach things from a tech out point of view, each link in the chain gets approached a little bit different. If you approach things from a customer back point of view, each link in the chain you approach a little bit different. Now here's a part that's counterintuitive. In a revolution of computation, which is about information processing, what you want to do is look down here because there's cool new stuff coming out all the time. What you should actually do for the sake of building moats is look up here because your customers are not changing nearly as fast as the capabilities are changing. The things that you build might be irrelevant tomorrow. The degree to which you wrap yourself around your customers is going to be a bit more durable. That's not to say that product and technology is not important. It is insanely important. And generally speaking, best product wins. But in a world where product changes so fast because capabilities change so fast, in thinking about moats, we would encourage you to go as customer back as possible and think about all the ways you can wrap yourself around those customers. Okay, the A in MAD stands for affordance. This is a term that we borrow from the design world. A hammer is an object that has affordance. I have a 2-year-old son. If I gave him a hammer, he would know what to do with it. He would grab it and start hitting stuff. That's why we don't give him hammers, okay? An object with affordance is one that doesn't need to be explained. People just know what to do with it. Cloud Code is insanely powerful. Go open up a terminal for the average Fortune 500 employee and see how far they get. While it is powerful, it does not offer that much affordance. That's not a knock on Anthropic, but it is an opportunity for anybody who wants to build on top and to create paths of least resistance for your specific customers and their specific problems so that it's just brain dead simple for them to figure out how to get to the outcome that they need for their business. That's the concept of affordance. And then finally, the D in MAD is diffusion. And the diffusion gap is the opportunity for companies building at the application layer. The rate at which capabilities are diffusing out into the market is far shy of the rate at which those capabilities are being created. And every day that the foundation models move faster than your average Fortune 500 enterprise, that gap gets bigger and that opportunity gets bigger. So for moats, try to think customer back. For affordance, try to think about creating those paths of least resistance for your customers. And that diffusion gap, that represents your opportunity. Unless that slide from earlier with the white space starting to fill up was discouraging for anybody, may we remind you that no lead is safe. There's this expression in racing. You cannot pass 15 cars in the sun, but you can pass 15 cars in the rain. And right now there is a torrential downpour of new capabilities coming out of the foundation models, which means that no lead is safe, but it also means that anybody can win. What a time to be alive. And with that, I'll hand it off to Sonia.
Thank you, Pat. And can I just say it's so nice to see so many friendly faces in the audience. There is an exceptional group of people here today, and I'm just really happy to be part of this ecosystem with all of you. And so the purpose of my section is to talk about what's happening in AI right now, which for 2026 is agents. Okay, flashback to 2022. Show of hands, does anybody here remember AutoGPT or Baby AGI? Okay. So these projects were overnight hits on GitHub, and what they did was they took GPT-3, gave it some tools, wrapped it in a loop, and let it run towards a goal. And it was promising until you watch those agents just fail over and over and over again. Kind of cute, kind of endearing, but completely useless. And I put this slide here to remind us that, we all knew agents were coming. We could have seen it years ago. But back in 2022, the models just weren't ready yet. Fast forward to today, something around the turn of the year really changed. Suddenly we have agents everywhere around us, and they seem to actually be working. 2 agents in particular have been home runs: Cloud Code for the technical crowd, and OpenClaw and all of its lobster brethren, which democratize agents to anybody with a phone. And so whether you are a hardcore engineer or a normie, the punchline is that anybody can create agents now. And so what we're seeing is people are building agents for everything. There is silly stuff like an OpenClaw agent that will literally snitch on your neighbors for tax fraud. Please don't do this. Or actually, maybe please do this. There's entrepreneurial stuff. Agents running generative media campaigns to sell construction services. And then there's the professional layer. I can tell you there's a huge race internally at Sequoia for who can build the best agents to do our jobs better. So what does it mean to be an agent? Here is one possible definition. An agent is a system that perceives its environment, chooses actions, and progresses autonomously towards a goal. By the way, guys, I made this in C dance by myself. I'm very proud of it. The video models have come a long way. And more specifically, I view agents as having three functional components. First is the ability to reason and plan. This is the baseline level of intuition and the ability to think on the fly. Second is the ability to take actions. This is tools, search, write, compile. And then finally, the ability to iterate towards a goal. This is the persistence that gives agents the ability to accomplish things over long time horizons. And so agency combines these three things. It is simply the ability to get shit done. If we boil agents out into their constituent components, the models, the tools, the harnesses, each component has progressed rapidly over the last year. First, the models or the brain. This is the most important thing that's happened. The meter chart measures how long a model can sustain progress on a complex task without going off the rails. And we've gone from the order of tens of minutes a year ago to the order of hours today. And so this is the most important thing that's happened. The models are finally getting capable enough to sustain performance on long horizon tasks. Second, the tools or the arms and the legs. These give models access to things that make us productive on a computer. The terminal for file systems and dev tools, iMessage, Slack, web search, computer use, you name it. And the last 2 decades that we spent building tools for humans have ended up being able to port over to be incredibly useful for agents as well. And there's a common refrain that SaaS is dead. I think to the contrary, the value of these tools is going to explode as the number of agents using them increases. Models and tools give agents capability. The harness is what gives them persistence, the ability to stay on task, adapt, and keep going. And that feedback loop is now really starting to crank. Especially now with reinforcement learning, we're giving these agents, we're taking them to driving school, giving them, training them in RL gyms. And we're pushing performance in different settings, from mechanical engineering to design to finance. We're also seeing the early glimmers of self-improvement, or the machine building the machine. For example, Andre's other research project improves research autonomously towards a GPT-2 level model in just 2 hours. So what does a world of agents everywhere look like? Agents exist on a sliding scale of agenticness. And so let's take coding as an example. In 2023, we had tab autocomplete, one AI assisting a human in line. This was incrementally useful, fundamentally not transformative. We now have agentic development, one human talking to an agent, instructing it what to do, maybe managing a team of agents. But this paradigm is getting pushed further. We're now seeing background agents, async agents, agents spawning sub-agents. We think that async agents in this whole paradigm is likely to overtake the current paradigm in volume just because of the amount of leverage in the system. And then finally, pushing the bleeding edge of the frontier, what I call dark factories, taking human review out of the system completely. This sounds crazy, but I've seen it happen in production, including with cybersecurity companies. It is possible with good enough guardrails and good enough engineering. So we're progressing up a scale of agenticness. Agents are going from little helpers that do a little amount by your side, to interns that need to be managed, to interns that manage themselves, and eventually to interns that can be trusted enough to push to prod without oversight. And so that's the evolution that's happening, not just in coding, but across all of agents. The most important takeaway for the founders in this room is that services is the new software. Pat's been saying this for as long as I've known him. And our partner Julian, who's in the audience today as well, published a great article on this. And we've known this for a long time, but I think it's actually happening. So in medicine, you're able to hire an agent that inspects your genome, gives you personalized recommendations, can prescribe you medication, recommend you clinical trials. In law, you'll be able to hire agents that can negotiate contracts on your behalf, even perform litigation and settle for you. In math and the sciences, we're seeing agents that can solve air dose problems or discover new superconductors. Like, how thrilling is that?